Good morning, everyone. Nice to see you. Thanks for coming on this, at least here, beautiful, beautiful Saturday. We spend some time renewing our vows, which is a major part of practice, particularly for those who have made the vows in Jukai. Renewing every month is something that we encourage, and it helps me anyway. Today's precept is the most kind of controversial. I've heard many people say we need to change the wording or change how we look at this precept. The usually how we say it, it's refrain from speaking of the shortcomings of others, or don't talk about others' faults and errors. And of course, that's has been used to not speak up when there has been problems in sanghas. So misunderstanding this precept has caused problems. I think I'll talk about it. There's the three different ways that we look at precepts. And I think I'll talk about it starting with the oneness, and maybe help to clarify how to look at this precept. There's three ways to look at the precepts: the literal, which is just do it; the relational, which is also the existential, what's right in this moment, to do the right thing; and the intrinsic, which is the fact that there's no separation. So in terms of this precept, I'll start with that intrinsic understanding of the precepts, and that is that intrinsically we are all one and we are all the same. Dogen's comments on this precept state that. Dogen's comments are within the Buddha Dharma, which of course the Buddha Dharma is everywhere. It is the same way, the same Dharma, the same realization, the same practice. Do not speak of the shortcomings of others. Do not corrupt the way. So we were also talking about this in the discussion group. Mr. Kendi talks about, it's a mirage to talk about race, because people, and actually humans, scientifically are essentially the same. And it's true, this is true from the standpoint of the oneness of all things too, in terms of not just biology, but in terms of physics. E equals mc squared. E equals mc squared. Mass equals energy. So what we are, if we go to the very bottom of who am I, I'm energy, and that energy is the same thing everywhere. So from that standpoint, there's no error. Everything is perfect. As it is perfect. So when we look at the world from that judgmental standpoint, what's wrong with this? What's wrong with that? We're missing that fact. Each of us is the same. And when we're comparing and judging, we lose a huge part of our life. We lose our life. So that's the intrinsic aspect of don't speak of others' errors and faults. So that's why we have faith that people who have made really big mistakes can heal, can recover. Milarepa, I don't know how many of you know Milarepa's story. He was one of the main Tibetan teachers long, long ago. But his story was he was not just a murderer, he was a horrible murderer. His aunt had stolen his inheritance somehow, and he got mad and he sought revenge and like killed many, many, many people out of revenge. Just kind of the worst crime you can imagine. And yet he found the Buddha way and became one of the greatest teachers. So he was oneness, pure, perfect, and got terribly twisted through anger and hatred. So that's why we can look at anyone who's really struggling as capable of healing and capable of realizing the Buddha way and manifesting as Buddha. That's the intrinsic sense. Then the relational sense, that's where we get into trouble. Because from the relational standpoint, we need to stand up and make a fuss when there's a problem, when someone's doing something wrong. And actually, that's one of the hardest things there is, to have the courage to stand up, to speak truth to power, to just to raise children, to raise a dog, to do anything. We have to have the courage to say, no, not that way. And love, realizing it's not perfect, realizing the person is perfect. We need to make a fuss. I'm thinking about this woman, I didn't look up her name. She used to be an advice columnist in this fashion magazine. I used to follow her advice, not the fashion. I haven't been following the fashion so much. But she was raped by Trump. And I always admired her in her advice column because she just was so open-hearted and loving and kind, and yet very strict about things like cheating and things like that. And she has fought Trump. He's thrown everything in her way, and she has not taken his money, and she has fought him. They're still fighting, and I just have so much admiration for her bravery. And also the Ukraine president. Oh my God. I mean, sometimes I fall into, they're all corrupt, power always corrupts, there's no good people out there, and yet he's taking the stand. I won't leave. I'll just sit here, a sitting duck. Everybody's trying to kill him. And yet he's that incredible bravery and courage that we're seeing in Ukraine right now, to cultivate that bravery, to speak up when something's wrong. And really, I think all of the precepts are about cultivating our courage. I just saw that movie, The Green Knight, which it's, you know, the Knights of the Round Table and stuff, but the point being our fundamental core values, having the courage to stand up for our core values. And of course, the great thing about that movie is this young man keeps failing. He keeps, you know, falling into not taking responsibility, running away, and yet he keeps coming back. He keeps on trying. So that's the nature of the precepts, is to help us develop a firm ethical, moral character core, and to develop the courage to stand up for what's right. And that means speaking up. uh, when there is really an error that needs to be talked about. And that's why the first, just do it. Just don't talk about anybody's errors and faults. It should probably be reworded because it's obvious, it maybe just to say appropriately, talk about errors and faults appropriately. So this gets into triangulation. It just gossip for the sake of gossip, triangulation, building relationships, putting someone down. Oh, and that's why we still haven't completely come out with the Sangha Sutra that we're working on, but it's just a huge manual on how the community can have a solid set of values and follow those values, and also a means, a grievance procedure, a means to go through when I need to speak up, something needs to be done, this is wrong. Well, here's the procedure to go through rather than what they call in council training, talking in the bushes. So we encourage, and I think this koan encourage is talking about speak directly. The whole thing about, well, I just had to vent, I just have to vent. Well, that's why I believe in therapists. I think having a therapist should be like having a dentist or your doctor. If you need to talk some trash, go to your therapist. That's what you pay them all the bucks for, is to have somewhere that we can vent, but in a safe space, that it's not going to cause disharmony. Or, you know, a really close friend who will tell you the truth and who won't take it outside. But really, you know, when that comes up, so this is the red flag place always, the literal understanding of a precept is always about when I'm talking about someone who's not here in a negative way, pay attention. Am I doing this out of a desire to help that person or a desire to harm? And am I doing it appropriately? And then also notice when I tell myself, oh, well, I don't want to say anything bad. Am I doing that out of cowardice, out of not having the strength to stand up and say, this was wrong, this didn't work right? So anyway, that's my take on this preset. Oh, I found one meme I liked. I can't help it, I like memes. But I'll just tell you, I won't show you the picture because this one, of course, had a picture of a Native American. I love these memes that then they stick a Buddha or a native person on them, to which who knows what they said. Oh, did I lose it? Oh, it's not here. Oh, shoot, look at that. It's gone. Well, it was something about kindness. It was something about noticing when we talk about each other, if kindness, are we being kind? That was the meme. I'll find it and post it. So anyway, that's all I have to say about don't speak about others' errors and faults. And we're going to do council. Cho is going to facilitate the council.